So, what exactly makes someone a good friend? Preferably, maybe knowing who each other are. So, what exactly does make someone a good friend? Well, my friends, the answer is going to blow your mind. Where are we going to find this answer, you may ask? Well, you guessed it, the Bible. So, yeah, let's dive in. The friendship between David and King Saul's son Jonathan is usually considered the strongest friendship recorded in the Bible. But what made it so strong? Well, let's find out. Our story begins with David trying to soothe King Saul like he would usually do. However, today Saul was a glutton for jealousy and David was a full-course meal of awesome. I think that tracks. But anywho, today instead of calming down, he decided to launch a spear at David's head, which David was not a big fan of. So later, David tells Jonathan, Saul's son, David's best friend. We covered all this already, so let's just keep moving on. So he tells Jonathan the story, and Jonathan's all like, nah, not my dad. And David's like, dude, Jonathan, I love you, and I love your dad. But you kind of have to admit he's always been a first-class ticket holder on the crazy train. And so David and Jonathan draw up this plan to prove that Saul really is trying to kill David. You know, because Saul's been so discreet about it up to this point. So Saul's hosting this dinner for a festival, and the plan is for David not to go. And when Saul asks why, Jonathan will just tell him that he's gone, and they'll see how he reacts. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happens. And as you would expect, Saul reacts like any rational, loving father would. And he launches a spear at his son. So Jonathan considers all the facts and evidence and eventually concludes that yes, in fact, his father is indeed a psychopath hell-bent on killing David. So the next part of the plan had to do with something shooting arrows and blah 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 blah. And they say goodbye, never see each other again. Now, what on earth does anything that I have just shared have to do with why their friendship was so strong? Well, it didn't really, actually. But what does are these two verses that work as a nice toasty warm bun that sandwich this crazy story together. The first is actually when David and Jonathan meet for the very first time. In 1 Samuel 18:1 it says, after David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David and he loved him as himself. And then the second one is 1 Samuel chapter 20 verse 17, which immediately concludes our story. And it says, and Jonathan had David reaffirm his oath out of love for him because he loved him as himself. So, did you get it? The secret is love. So, did I blow your mind? I didn't? Really? You mean that's literally what you thought was what made someone a good friend? That they genuinely love you? Huh. I maybe totally overestimated the impact this bombshell, or really lack thereof, was. But something that I do want to share is this nugget of wisdom from Jean Mayo in her book, Dating Declassified. She says, repeatedly, I noticed that the people who were the most loved themselves gave the most love away. So there you go. People are the most loved when they give the most love away. Which is good advice and all, but again, not all that groundbreaking. But when you realize that her father was a classic chronic drunk and borderline physically abusive to her, you realize that for her, the idea of being loved by giving love wasn't something she experienced often. She goes on to say this, that's when I began to teach myself to purposely look for things in other people that I could sincerely appreciate. and verbalized it to them. You see, it's one thing to just simply say that we love other people. It's another thing to physically look for it and go about actually applying that to our lives. You see, that's what separates someone from being just a good or okay friend to a great friend. So, are you a good friend? Are you the kind of person that gives the most love away? And do you surround yourself with those kind of people, or do you surround yourselves with people like Saul, who will launch a spear at you if you no longer meet their needs? See, who our friends are says a lot about the kind of friend that we are in return. And that is Craig approved. And that's a wrap.